Hey guys, this is Brian from Fantasy Labs. Thanks for tuning in. I just wanted to take a second and do a quick video on one of my weekly columns that I do. It's the NFL DFS correlation values, and just kind of explain how I got to the idea and just kind of what it means and how to use it. Because I've had some questions from readers that I think maybe I didn't explain it so well. So I apologize for that, but let me try again to explain it. So I'm at this introducing one, which is a free article. From now on, the weekly ones, and you can go and see the weekly one for week 4. They're premium access. You have to be a pro subscriber to get access to it, which I encourage you to do. And I'll give you a link and a promo code to get a discount at the end of this video to do that, so you can see it every week. But we'll go to this first one, which kind of explains it, and it's free, so you can go back. I wrote it on the 5th before the season. So to explain, really, we're just kind of taking advantage of positive correlations between positions. And positive correlation between positions just means that when one player does well, it generally means the other player does well at the same time. So we have quarterbacks and his wide receivers, and that makes sense if you think about it. If a quarterback does well, it's usually going to be because he is passing a lot and he's and getting a lot of yards, and he's throwing touchdowns. And who is he going to be throwing the touchdowns to? He's going to be throwing it to his wide receivers. So generally, when a quarterback does really well, we usually see his wide receivers do well in the same game. So that's why people tell you that the quarterback and wide receiver stacking has a positive correlation you should do in a tournament, because you have that upside where if Aaron Rodgers goes off and throws 3 touchdowns, there's a good chance that a lot of those yards and potentially a couple of those touchdowns are going to go to Randall Cobb. So there's a positive correlation between those two. So really, we want to focus on the most positive ones, and RotoViz has this chart, and they did all this research, so I want to give them credit. You can check that out. But the main correlations that we look at every week are quarterback and his 3 wide receivers are all positively correlated, which again makes sense. And then quarterback and kicker and defense are actually very highly correlated. Obviously, these two are only on FanDuel because they have kickers. DraftKings does not. They have the flex instead. Whereas the quarterback wide receivers are obviously on both sites. So let's look at an example of a chart, and I'll kind of explain. Okay, so the way that I would read this is not to so first off, I wouldn't use this to build your lineup in the first place. I would read our articles, listen to our podcast, use our models, and kind of start that for the foundation of building your lineups, because those are going to provide kind of hard data on stuff. This is kind of a thing to do last, just to get free upside. You could do it on Sunday morning, and it just kind of gives you free upside and a good way to round out your lineup. Maybe if you're confused about, I'm not sure which defense or kicker to fit into my lineup, this is a good way to pick and also get the free correlation. And we'll go over the kicker defense in a second. But let's look here. So the way to read this is, okay, if I'm locked into a position, what is the benefit of correlating it with one of the positive correlated positions? So if I am locked in and I know for sure that I'm going to take Carson Palmer, for example, what is the value of taking his top wide receiver or Larry Fitzgerald in this example? And obviously, so green is good, red is bad. So you know that you're going to, it's only going to, so you're getting kind of $1,000 of benefit cost from taking his wide receiver 1 because of his cheapness and the wide receiver is only going to do that. Whereas Houston Texans, you have a bad quarterback, and then you're having to pay up for his wide receiver. So obviously that is negative. But I wouldn't go too far in the opposite direction, because we have Russell Wilson, who's expensive, and it doesn't cost that much to get his wide receiver in. So obviously you have the high number here, but also I think that wide receiver is Doug Baldwin and a Greg Jones. So again, it's if you're going to take this, take one of these guys, what does it cost you to take their wide receiver one. So obviously you're getting the best value with Russell Wilson. If you're going to take his wide receiver one, then you would get 3,200. He's a unique example because of his running ability. But you could look at potential, like at the very beginning of the year, even though it didn't work out, you have Drew Brees. And what is it going to cost to get Drew Brees wide receiver one, which was Brandon Cooks, who was only $6,000, and you kind of get a value of $2,000. It's only going to cost you $6,000 to get Drew Brees' wide receiver one. And I know that the Saints haven't done as well, but in years past, if you could say, hey, you're going to get Drew Brees, number one pass catcher, and you're going to get him for only $6,000, you would say, sign me up. So that's the way I would look at it, is if you're locked into one of these players, if you're locked into a quarterback, and you're kind of looking for a wide receiver, this can kind of show you, okay, what's it going to cost me to get one of these guys into my lineups to get that upside? And the same goes for the quarterback and kickers and the kickers and the defense. So if you're going to take the Green Bay Packers quarterback, so if you're going to take Aaron Rodgers, what is it going to cost you to get his kicker? Because obviously he has a correlation. And obviously he's higher. And even though the Green Bay Packers kicker is higher kind of as a result, you're kind of getting the savings. And a lot of this is because just how kickers and defenses are priced. Like if you think about it on DraftKings, the top wide receiver this week in week 4 is Julio, who's at $9,300, and the cheapest receivers are all at $3,000. So the difference between the top and the bottom is $6,300, which is a pretty significant difference. Whereas the difference between the high-end kickers and the low-end kickers, and the difference between the high-end defense and the low-end defense is only maybe $500 or $600. Some of the defenses, like the Seahawks last week, you're getting up to $1,000, but still nowhere near the difference between the high-end receivers and the low-end receivers, or the high-end quarterbacks and the low-end ones. So it almost makes sense right here to pay up for, if you're locked in to Aaron Rodgers, it almost makes sense to pay up for his kicker, because you're getting his you're going to have to roster one of these anyway. It's not like you can leave your kicker blank and kind of net that salary. You're going to have to pay for one anyway, so you might as well pay the extra $300-400 and get that upside. So it just kind of shows you, if you're locked into one of these, what is it going to cost you to get that correlation? And then the same goes, and I have two charts. One is just kind of reverse. One's D to kicker, and one's kicker to D. So if you're going to take the Baltimore Ravens kicker, what is it going to cost you to get their defense in there as well? And then also, if you're going to have the Baltimore Ravens defense, what is it going to cost you to get their kicker in there? So again, this is something that you can use on Sunday mornings, or something if you say, okay, I have my lineup set, I know exactly who I want to use, I just don't know who my kicker is. I know I want to go with Andrew Luck. Okay, so then you can look at the correlation values that I put out every week. I'm going to put them out on Tuesday of every week. So again, get premium access and look at that. And then you can say, okay, what's it going to cost me to get Andrew Luck's kicker, so I get that positive correlation? Because you're having to pick one of these anyway, so you might as well get the free upside. And that's why we call it free, is because you're going to have to anyway. So you might as well get the free upside, especially in a tournament where you need all the upside you can get, where if Andrew Luck goes off, his kicker is also going to score a lot of points, because he's obviously kicking extra points, and they're scoring and they're driving. So what is it going to cost to get Andrew Luck's kicker into the lineup? And this is kind of the savings that you're getting. So that's kind of how to interpret it. I apologize that it was a little confusing. It is kind of a little of an abstract idea, but I hope you understand better. If you have any questions about this article or this column or any of the other ones I write, please let me know. Shoot me a message on Twitter or email me or whatever you want to do, and I'll gladly post a video or give you answers or whatever and explain it. I try to explain the best I can in writing, but obviously sometimes it's maybe videos are a better medium in some instances to explain things. So. I hope this made sense. If you want to get that pro access, I'll put a link in the description of the video. And you can also use code MEARS. It's MEARS. It's my last name. It's just ears with an M. And you can put that at checkout if you want to try Fantasy Labs. You can get the trial or the pro access, and you can look at all of the cool. It'll get you access to the models and all the premium content, which will be, I have a bunch of weekly articles, and a bunch of them are premium, so that'll get you access to those. So do that, and again, let me know what you think, and if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching.